Ladies and gentlemen, One Piece chapter 1043 is finally out, and I'm just gonna say this right off the top, it's an absolute banger. And not only is it an absolute banger, I think it's perhaps the chapter of the year. So we got a lot to talk about and a lot of theories to break down, but as always, make sure you subscribe because we do this every week. And if you have a good time watching this video, please drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. I would very much appreciate it. Alright, so I know a lot of people are gonna be very excited about the Joy Boy stuff and the Awakening stuff, which we will get to by the end of the chapter, but we gotta start from the top as always because there's a lot of other stuff that was amazing in this chapter. The cover page story we're just gonna skip over this week because not much really happened. We just got another update of Oven going to Whole Cake Island. It is a little weird that we're focusing more on Whole Cake Island instead of the Vinsmokes because this is a Germa 66 cover page story, so I'm wondering if like they're gonna come to Whole Cake Island again to try to save them. But either way, I expect we might see Katakuri pretty soon, so that's pretty exciting. Jumping into the chapter though, we don't waste any time. We pick up right where we left off last chapter. We see the absolute destruction Kaido put into Luffy with his last attack. He still looks like he is absolutely getting PTSD and he's about to cry, but it's pretty funny that he still does not hold back at all and just full on carries out his swing and just destroys Luffy. And of course, as we expected, the damage is absolutely incredible. Luffy is just coughing out blood like crazy. The CP0 guy is off to the side pretty much at this point, knowing that he's gonna die and he's ready to face his death. I do find it interesting that we cut back to the other CP0 guy multiple times who kind of acknowledges what the other guy did. I'm guessing how he realizes here is that he also realizes that Luffy's voice is gone through his observation haki, which we will go into detail a little more in regards to Luffy's voice and all that. But yeah, after that attack, Luffy goes out of gear 4th, which was to be expected, and then Momonosuke specifically says that Luffy's voice is gone. So that in itself already told us Luffy was done and knocked out, but if that wasn't enough to confirm it, we actually see Luffy just completely blacked out, and we actually get a victor box as well with Kaido of the Beast as the victor of the rooftop battle. Now this part I actually did not expect. Like Luffy losing and getting destroyed here, I absolutely expected. And as I mentioned in my last chapter review, I expected Luffy to be so destroyed that he needed something to help him recover like Marco or Law. And at the end of the chapter, that's exactly what he gets, but I actually didn't expect that as an option, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, as far as this victory box goes, it is pretty interesting that we actually got one because with what happens at the end of the chapter, we're expecting Luffy to still come back and win this battle. So because of that, a lot of people are interpreting this as Luffy losing, but at the end of the chapter, the person that we see is actually Joy Boy taking over. I don't particularly love that idea, and I'll talk about why in a little bit, but I also don't think this victory box signifies that happening either. I think it could just be a way of Oda really emphasizing that Luffy has absolutely lost here in this battle. But one interesting thing Oda has sneakily done with every single one of these victory announcements is that he lists the location of every single battle. So I think instead what this victory box could signify is that Roof Piece is over. Kaido won that battle. But instead Luffy's gonna come back once again, this time with Awakening, and defeat Kaido in a different location for everyone to see, for the people of Wano to see. And that's when we're gonna get the final victory box of Straw Hat Luffy winning the entire raid on Onigashima. At least that's what I think is gonna happen. I could be totally wrong. Maybe it's Joy Boy that takes over Luffy's body, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. For the time being, we gotta pay some respects for my guy CP0 for all the work that he put in. He knew the consequences of his actions as soon as he done it. He pretty much did not even fight back, and the way that he seemingly goes out here is pretty badass. Just tips his hat, says "Milady" to Kaido, and calls it a day. Now realistically, this guy should be dead. I don't really see a reason to keep him alive, but I've thought that in the past as well, so because we didn't see him actually die, I'm not gonna say that the guy is actually dead. But if he is, it was a badass way to go out. We even see the other CP0 guy tip his hat as well. But after that though is just absolute mayhem throughout Onigashima. The fire is spreading, all this debris is falling from the ceiling. Kaido is now no longer fighting Luffy, so he just comes back down and just spams Boro Blast everywhere. And he pretty much just comes down and declares victory, says that Luffy is dead, and tells everybody to bring Momonosuke. Now what's kind of funny is that he's already done this once when Luffy fell off of Onigashima. He declared that Luffy was dead and that he had won. Of course, Luffy came back then, and now we know he will come back again. I'm wondering what Kaido's reaction is gonna be. He's like, God damn, like how many times are you gonna die? What is going on? But yeah, this time around it's a little more serious because a lot of people start to notice that Luffy's voice is gone. The first one to mention it earlier was Momonosuke, which makes sense because he has the voice of all things. But the next person to bring it up is actually Law. And I will say, during my live reaction, I was kind of confused because he specifically mentions Luffy's voice being gone. And for second there, I was like, wait, is this confirming Law also has the voice of all things? But after talking to chat a little bit and going back and rereading some things, it's pretty clear that he's referring to his observation haki, noticing voices are gone, just like Kobe did at Marineford. So I think Law saying Luffy's voice has disappeared is not confirming he has the voice of all things, and it's just observation haki. After that though, we get everyone's reaction. Kid is pretty disappointed. Law is once again saying that he has nothing left to give. Of course, recently I made a video about Law using his immortality surgery to help Luffy recover, and it was a kind of a bad timing that I made that video because so many people had already read spoilers and knew that Luffy was coming back with Awakening. I still don't think it's completely out of the question that Law uses it in Wano, but at this point it does look like Luffy is getting back up with just Awakening. But yeah, besides Law and Kid, we see Chopper is freaking out. Tama, of course, is freaking out as well. Nami really is the first Straw Hat to stand up and say that Luffy can't lose. He's not dead. It's impossible. But even you can see in her eyes, she is getting very emotional and scared. But I do love how Oda chose to give her a confident moment here, like her believing that Luffy is still alive and that he will come back, just like he did with Sanji and Zoro the first time Luffy went down. Seeing that trust and the confidence that the Straw Hats have in Luffy is just incredible. But yeah, Nami's pretty much the only person believing Luffy is still alive, and not only is she doing that, but she actually looks at Kaido and starts yelling liar at him, which of course he responds by just firing a Burrow Blast at her. Marco comes in clutch here once again and saves the day, and at this point I am wondering whether or not his role in Onigashima is just to be this person to kind of like just help out whenever needed. Personally, I did expect a character of Marco's caliber to do a little more and have a bigger role. Like, don't get me wrong, he's been incredibly clutch, fighting King and Queen for a little bit, saving multiple people multiple times, but I just felt like if you were gonna bring in a major character like Marco, he would do a little more, like actually have a 1v1 or like save somebody's life that was in critical condition. Technically he did with the Ice Oni stuff, but that was just like a bunch of samurai that we didn't know. But yeah, who knows, maybe his role in Wano is just to be this like kind of clutch person bouncing in and out saving people. I do think if that's the case, he's probably gonna be a plot device to get the Straw Hats to the next island, whether that's Whitebeard related stuff or Sphinx Island. I don't think Oda brought Marco to Onigashima just to have these few clutch moments. After that though, Kaido pretty much just starts talking a bunch of shit. He once again talks about how Onigashima is gonna land on the flower capital. He even says that he's not gonna be as soft as Orochi, saying that women and children are gonna be slaves as well. And he's kind of just talking a lot of shit, trying to intimidate the hell out of people. The shading of this panel here makes him look like an absolute menace. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Kaido I've been waiting for. The Kaido that is an absolute savage and a menace. Like, the drunk phases stuff was funny and all that and kind of shows us Kaido has his own silly side as well. But Kaido as a villain, this is the person I wanted to see. The person with absolutely no mercy, the strongest creature in all of the seas. So him getting serious here, I absolutely love, and we still have a flashback to go with him. So I'm really looking forward to this final battle. I don't think there's going to be any silly moments anymore, and it's just going to be this epic final climax to this over 100 chapter arc, and honestly something we've been building up towards since the New World. And that's exactly what we're building towards in this chapter, with Kaido talking a bunch of shit. The Beast Pirates start to get motivated again and they fight back. Law and Kid are still absolutely exhausted, so they can't even really fight back against the Beast Pirates. But finally, the cheerleader fodder pirates, the Heart and Kid pirates, do something in Onigashima. I've been bagging on these guys for every single chapter that they were just standing off to the sidelines and cheering and crying while their captains were laying their lives on the line. And don't get me wrong, we shouldn't praise them that much for just fighting off Beast Pirates while their captains are about to die to them. But I will give some props where it's due. They do finally do something, although it is interesting that Beppo is still nowhere to be seen. Like, where the hell is Beppo? The fact that this man is considered a vice captain is an absolute disgrace, okay? I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't care about all them furry fans of Beppo buying his merchandise and all that. He can't even come out here and fight off some Beast Pirates when his captain's life is on the line. Take his ass off the double page color spread with all those other vice captains because he does not deserve to be there. At one point, I even gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe we're gonna see Sula on Beppo at some point. At this point, I think the only thing we're gonna see more from of Beppo is going to be merchandise. Moving on from that though, we kind of just get some more updates throughout the castle. Neko, Momoshi, and Carrot are going back to the main stage. We see everybody else is kind of just struggling with all the fire that's going on. One thing I talked about during my live reaction is with how much fire and debris is going on here, it's like somebody should be dead, right? Like, some of the samurai should definitely be dead. Like, even if Oda doesn't address it and leave it up to interpretation, I'm fine with that. I think it would really add some weight to the arc if we found out there were confirmed casualties like we did in Marineford. But that's something we're just gonna have to wait and see. In the time being, it's not looking good for the samurai. Everything is crumbling and falling. The fire spreading everywhere, and Kaido's just spamming his Burrow Blast throughout all of Onigashima. In the meantime, though, the next scene that we jump to is between Momonosuke and Yamato, and this scene I absolutely loved. It starts off with Momonosuke once again just absolutely freaking out, and if you saw my live reaction, I was like screaming at him like, Momonosuke, this is not the time. Luffy's like literally supposedly dead. You cannot be freaking out right now. You're a grown-ass man. It's time to step up as the Shogun of Wano. Obviously, I also addressed that at heart he's an 8-year-old kid, so it makes sense for him to be freaking out. So first off, him just freaking out again kind of just reminds us that he is still that little Momonosuke, despite the fact that he's a grown-ass man and a big-ass dragon now. It also sets up this incredible moment for Yamato, which not only adds more to her character, but even more so her relationship with Momonosuke and what her role in the story might be, because she's really the one to step up here and like actually remind him like, hey, the pride of the Wano samurai, what it's all about is standing up and facing death. She lets them know the actual circumstances that they're facing, how everyone's gonna become slaves, and that there is no way around this. And this is really great coming from her, because we know that this is meaningful because she suffered the same kind of abuse for pretty much all of her life. She even brings up the flashback that we saw with the daimyo of Wano and the regret that they felt, all leading up to the final line of dialogue, which is the title drop, "We die together." And altogether, this is just such a great character moment for Yamato because it ties so well with her flashback and everything she experienced. And I think finally we are starting to see what type of person Yamato is, and I hope slowly that she's gonna realize like this is all herself and she could be herself and be great. And not only that, but her speech also snaps Momonosuke out of it. He once again has his serious face on and it looks like he's gonna fight back. And I will say this about Momonosuke, despite the fact that he's always crying, and which makes sense, he is a little kid, but when the moment comes to get absolutely serious, he does always step up. And that is one thing I always respected about Momonosuke, so I'm really excited to see how he actually fights back and stands up to Kaido here. That being said, that leads us to the final part of this chapter where Zunisha starts to talk again and he says, Momonosuke, I can hear it again. It really brings me back. The drums of liberation are being beat again, and it's without a doubt the return of Joy Boy himself. And at the end of the chapter, we see Luffy is smiling. His hair is going into like this rubber liquid substance. There's even a grin sound effect, which in Japanese is pronounced Nika. And that, my friends, not only leads us to the end of the chapter, but also a break next week. Oda, I love that you're getting your break, but you know exactly what you're doing. But yeah, what an absolute crazy thing to drop at the end of the chapter. I was unfortunately spoiled on it, which I will take this moment to say, please do not post any spoilers in the comments. I do not read spoilers. I live react blindly on Fridays. So if you read spoilers, that's cool. That's good for you. I do not care, but please do not post them in my comments or you will get banned. Thank you. But yeah, Luffy has been confirmed to be Joy Boy and looks like he's awakening his devil fruit and bouncing back, which I think overall most of this is expected. Luffy being Joy Boy and Luffy awakening his devil fruit. Like literally just last week, I made a video about Luffy awakening his devil fruit and coming back against Kaido, and about how Luffy is Joy Boy. So these things being confirmed isn't really that surprising to me, but I am really interested in where this leads to, specifically with his awakening. What exactly with it? I think I'm gonna do a deep dive on every single theory because there were just so many theories that came out during this weekend. So the next video I drop is probably gonna be gathering all those theories and trying to figure out which one is the most reasonable. If I had to pick now, I would probably lean towards the resin theory, because not only does it line up with all the abilities that we've seen from him throughout the story with him being rubber, but the thing that really hammers it home is the number of this chapter, which is 1043, which in Japanese I believe is Jushi-san, which means Mr. Resin. So I feel like with that, too many things are lining up for it not to be the case, especially even with this last panel where it looks like Luffy's turning into liquid rubber. I do still want to check out some other theories about mythical Zoans, like Luffy being Hanuman. That is one I've seen a lot. But right now, if I had to pick, I would probably say that resin is the best option. As far as Luffy being Joy Boy though, that sparked so many other debates as well. First off, as I talked about earlier, there's the theory a lot of people have that Luffy is actually like unconscious right now and that Joy Boy is literally taking over his body. A lot of people think that is possible maybe because of the devil fruits, either that all devil fruits kind of contain some aspect of a soul of the previous user, or maybe with resin specifically that it's being used to contain Joy Boy's soul somehow. I personally don't think it's either of them. Like, I don't think Joy Boy is actually back and alive. This whole time I've always believed that Joy Boy is a title that is going to be inherited by someone in the future. So I think what's actually happening here is that the Gomu Gomu no Mi, or whatever it's called, is the devil fruit that Joy Boy had in the past. And because his awakening here, that's why Zunisha is recognizing the drums of liberation and kind of feeling Joy Boy's presence once again. And at the end of the chapter here, I actually do think that's just Luffy recovering and realizing that he's awakened his devil fruit and that he's gonna fight back against Kaido. But that's just my theory and my take on it. If you have a different opinion, definitely comment below. I think I'm definitely a bit biased because if you watch my Luffy Joy Boy video, which you can check out right here, the thing I really hammer home in that video is freedom versus fate. And this battle between these two ideas is the reason why I always believed that Luffy was never like destined and fated to be Joy Boy, because my personal interpretation of fate is that whatever you do, you are fated and destined to be this one thing, and your actions kind of don't really matter. Some people would argue that you still have to take the actions to reach that fate, but personally to me, with fate being a confirmed thing, it kind of undermines what you did. Like imagine if somebody said to you like, hey, you put in a lot of hard work, I'll give you that, you've done well, but this was your destiny all along. That would be pretty disrespectful in my opinion. So fate being like a confirmed thing would pretty much undermine Luffy's actions to an extent for me. So for me, Luffy becoming Joy Boy is because of his own actions and his own beliefs in freedom. And I still believe that to be the case. I see a lot of people freaking out already that, oh my god, Oda is going destiny route, it doesn't make any sense, this is trash, which is an absurd take to me because first off, nothing even got confirmed in this chapter. All we found out was that Zunisha is recognizing Joy Boy from something. And second of all, I still trust Oda very much as a writer, especially because this idea of freedom and destiny is something he's even brought up in the story himself. And like I said during my Joy Boy video, the one thing he's always pushed is inherited will in people's dreams. And those things are really created through people's own actions. So if anything, I think Oda has been pretty consistent with what his idea of destiny is, which is something that you create through your own actions, which does not go against the idea of freedom. Now, one last thing I will say to this is that I'm not overlooking Luffy's a special character. He's a Will of D member, he's a crazy ass family, he's gotten lucky multiple times throughout the story, and now it seems that he has Joy Boy's devil fruit as well. So don't get me wrong, Luffy's definitely a special circumstance. I just think that him becoming Joy Boy is still through his own actions, coincidences, and his own beliefs. That being said though, that's the end of the chapter. Like I said, it was an absolute banger. I'm really looking forward to the next two videos I'm gonna make, one being just looking at all the theories about Luffy's devil fruit and what it's gonna be and coming to a conclusion, and the second one I really want to talk about is Shanks' role in all of this and why he sacrificed an arm for Luffy. And also in my hand, I'm holding a bounty poster of Shanks, Boa, or Asabo. If you get it wrong, you have to like, subscribe, and watch the next video. And the answer is the man who started this whole thing.